Welcome back to a late night edition of the 513 podcast. I'm Bengal Storm, aka Nick Nickel. I'm here with Vince, aka Sam Hubbard enthusiast. Just got done with the Giants preseason game. Really to watching that, and yeah, there was a lot of positives and a lot of negatives to look back on it. I think we should start with the ending. Vince, what did you think about that?
Um, Words can't describe just the emotion and just thought process that went through me in that. Because even though it's a preseason game, I love this team to death, and I was pretty upset at first. My thought process through the whole thing was, okay, what is Zach Taylor doing? Why are you play calling this when you can easily kick a field goal? Um, Trent Irwin took an unnecessary hit that he shouldn't have taken. Could have possibly gave him a concussion or injury or anything. And just overall, it just made no sense to me. And I started criticizing Zach Taylor a little bit, um, because I mean, you can be critical of your coach. I mean, everybody should be, and to say you can't do it just because it's a preseason game, I think is out of the ordinary. Because to me, it shows tendencies. And that's super important with coaching. I mean, Andy Reid's tendency has been bad clock management, in the past. I mean, just as an example. So, I mean, when you look at tendencies of coaches and stuff, they're really important. And I think you should look at every aspect of that, especially in a preseason game. But as time went on, I keep learning more and stuff about the whole situation. And I'm thinking, okay, he maybe wanted to keep the players from getting injured, and didn't want to go into overtime. Okay, well, no, you can't do that because NFL removed overtime from the preseason. Okay, but you still don't wanna try your kicker out there because you don't wanna have potentially a fat Randy moment or something from week 1 against the Chargers a couple years ago. Okay, but that makes no sense because if that was the case, you would've just kneed and not thrown it to Trent Irwin, who literally almost had his head taken off. Okay, so now all those options are off the table. And then it comes out 3 hours ago, or well, it didn't come out, but, I mean, it did come out 3 hours ago, sorry, I had that correct the first time. Kelsey Conway, a reporter for the Bengals on Twitter, tweeted out that it looks like Callahan was gonna be calling plays for the entire night. So, in all my thought process and all the emotion going through me at once, all of that ended up to be for almost nothing, it seemed, as, it seems Callahan was calling plays and not Zach Taylor. So all the criticism I may have had for Zach, all the scenarios, all of it possibly meant nothing as it was Callahan calling the plays and probably experimenting or something. So for me, that was just one big roller coaster ride of emotions and thought process, and I think it was as well for some of the fans too watching that game. It was just a whole cluster of, randomness, and I think that's the best way to describe it.
I do. I was just saying, I do think it was the QB coach Dan Picture that did the play calling, not Brian Callahan. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's just a good thing to see that it wasn't your offensive coordinator or Zach Taylor that made that call. So that's good to look at. But I mean, yeah, it's terrible that obviously there could have been a lot of good things that could have came out of it. Like we could have went for a tie with McPherson or made a better play call instead of potentially getting Trenton Irwin a concussion. But in the end, you got to think play before they were in a prevent defense and thought about maybe just doing a quick pass, get out of bounds, get a few yards, and then maybe either chuck it up and try going for the win, or maybe get a really close field goal by then. But it just didn't work out, so I guess it was more execution, I think. But yeah, I think it was both play calling and execution that could have been better. But let's go on to the main game. A lot of positives to look at. I'm gonna name three winners that was from the game. The first one I have is Cordell Volson. Dude, lot of anticipation, a lot of hype after the Cardinals game. Didn't know what to expect with the fact that he was going up against backups and third stringers, and he's going to be going up against like Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. So there was a lot of hype. but man, he lived up to it. He almost played a flawless game if you got rid of the missed blitz pickup in what was it, the second quarter. But with that, you just got to think there's no way he's not the week one starter. Like, yeah, he's a lot to work on. He's still a rookie, but he definitely shows promise and a lot of improvement and development so far in just a few months. So, yeah, that's my first guy.
Absolutely, I agree. Dax Hill showed out completely tonight, and he really just lit it up everywhere. You know, just as a player, he looks really good. Just all over the field, being everywhere when he needs to be. I mean, it's just everything about it was amazing. For me, one of my positives was Lassiter. Actually, Lassiter I think stepped up and had a huge game. But what really stuck out to me, in my opinion, was on the after he dropped the 2-point conversion. You know, he was having like a perfect night almost up until that point. When he dropped the 2-point conversion, it was just like, damn, you know, like you should have had that. And you know that's something that can affect a receiver for the rest of the game with as little time as there was left. Thinking, damn, I should have caught that. That could have changed everything. But when you look at on the final drive and stuff, when he was in the game and he made that big catch, it really showed me his ability to just forget what happened in the on the last play and focus on the now. And that I think is critical for wide receivers to have in that mentality process of things, is the ability to forget what happened on the last play during the game. So for me, Lassiter, I think absolutely showed out, was a complete positive, and mentally speaking, he showed that you can count on him. Even if he's gonna drop one, he's gonna catch the next one, and to me, that's really important. So, big game from Lassiter.
I think the wide receivers in general had a really good game. Lassiter really showed out with the. Besides the 2-point conversion, he caught all 7 targets he had for 91 yards. Trent Taylor with a huge fourth down conversion. Kendrick Pryor went back to what we expected from after last week, made a lot of tough catches, a lot of clutch catches, and of course he gets the one catch from Drew Plitt and takes it for 20 yards, so that's great to see. But yeah, that was great. But the second, a guy that I really want to people to realize how good he was today was Clay Johnson. I mean, the guy was going off. The guy had 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and
Absolutely.
20 tackles.
It was absolutely insane. He played his ass off.
Just let that sit. The NFL record in a regular season game for tackles is 20. The dude had the NFL record if it was a regular season game.
Yeah,
He's
he
he sh- he showed how good he is at tackling, how much he's improved in the past few seasons. I mean, I believe last week he had 11 tackles against the Browns. Last year he had 8. I think like if there's a run situation we need to go to somewhere, I wouldn't be surprised if we may put Clay Johnson in for a few just from how good he is at tackling.
yeah,
I
absolutely. I mean, he literally every facet of the game, like, he just complete dominated tonight. Like, it was ridiculous watching him tackle everybody and just be all over the field chasing down quarterbacks and everything. He's really coming for the linebacker starting jobs, honestly. Like, he might sneak in there. He might be the dark horse for this year. It's insane to think, but oh my goodness, he's just balling out. And it's always nice to see, someone who we interviewed ball out for the team as well. It's always fun to see, but, you know, just when you look, I also think back to our interview with Clay as well, and how he said he isn't really trying to compete or, like, do anything like, steal these jobs. He's just trying to see if he can make the team, and really football is fun to him, and he does it for fun. He does it for himself, not for money or chasing bags or anything. But, man, with the way he played tonight, I mean, if he's gonna be like that all season, I'm gonna be a little scared for some of these linebacker starting jobs.
and speaking of players we interviewed, I kind of want to go into the defense a bit, like defend someone. Delonte Hood. Obviously, he allowed the touchdown at the end and allowed a 50-50 ball, but I'm just going to say this that I think some of the hate that I've seen towards him tonight is undeserved. He had 3 incompletions allowed, and the reason why he allowed so many catches was because the defensive game plan was putting him on a cushion, and a lot of the catches he allowed were quick slants, quick outs, stuff that no matter how fast, how athletic you are, if you're 8, 7 yards back, then there's no way you can be able to catch up and make a play with that. So I think I think with the situation he was given, he did all right. Obviously, there was some stuff he could improve on, but I think he showed his recovery great. On that incompletion on a deep ball, he did lose initially, but I just saw like him quickly recovering and allowing incompletion, so that just showed a lot of a lot of potential that I can see with him.
Absolutely. There is potential there, but you also have to think though with the speed that some of the other corners on the roster and other young corners on the team just have been playing at lately, and just the speed and just level they've been at. A lot you can't afford too many mistakes in that area of the game and position. Delonte Hood unfortunately made a few of those mistakes and fell a bit back behind the pack. Guys like Alan George, who else? Sorry, my brain is going dead right now. I can't think of.
Alan George had Alan George probably had one of the best games of the night. He had 5 solo tackles and 3 pass deflections. So
Yep. But
if if Cam yeah, if
sorry.
Cam Taylor Britt is out for a few weeks, we could definitely see Alan George being a dark horse to make the roster, maybe even get a few snaps early just from his high play against starting caliber wide receivers. I mean, he was insane. I don't think he allowed a catch that wasn't a screen. I don't think he allowed any. So that is something to look at for the next few weeks. What's going to happen to Alan George?
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like I'm blanking on a name right now. There was another cornerback I think that was doing well too.
Jalen Davis?
Jalen Davis, yes, Jalen Davis was doing good as well. So I mean, there's some really fierce competition right now at the cornerback spot. But it's good for the team. Iron sharpens iron. And we need all the help we can get at the cornerback position. So to have a battle like this right now, it is very good for us. But Delonte Hood definitely a bit overhated on the performance tonight, but still falling behind in the race for the position.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff to look forward to. And looking at another guy in the secondary that I think no one is talking about, safety Michael Thomas. I think people should be realizing that this guy probably just earned himself a roster spot tonight just from the Chris Evans 77-yard return. If you look at that, Michael Thomas made a huge block on a guy about to make a tackle, and
Really?
that's what made Chris Evans break away for 50 yards, and then
I think I missed
right
that.
yeah, and then right after that, guess who forced a fumble on a kickoff and got which the Bengals recovered and
I
got
I
three
was
more
I was
points out
I
of
was
it.
I was upset about that. I turned away for a second and I missed the fumble.
Uh,
I looked back and there's a whole pile and I was like, "Oh my goodness."
yeah, Michael Thomas, he and then he got like 2 more tackles on punt, so he's obviously a leader on special teams. Him and Stanley Morgan. So I think and it's obvious Darren Simmons uh has a huge factor in who makes the roster. And I mean, obviously, if we went off last year, if we all with Mitchell Wilcox with Thaddeus Moss, they went off just pure talent and best receiving tight end, it would have been Moss. But Wilcox is a way better special teamer, so that decision went to Darren Simmons, and I think that showed. I think tonight it will show again with Michael Thomas being so good, so versatile on special teams, getting a huge block, a huge fumble, and two great tackles. I mean, why wouldn't you? And Simmons won a huge veteran presence, a Pro Bowler. I mean, I don't see any reason why Michael Thomas will not be playing for us this year.
I mean, yeah, I think he's I mean, he played pretty decently for as a backup role last year and stuff. I mean, nobody really had a complaint about the safety Mike Thomas. I didn't really hear anything about that. So to me, I mean, yeah, I do think he can make it back on the roster spot for sure. But there is other players there at the position too who might be a step ahead of him in final the final depth chart.
Oh yeah, definitely Tyson Anderson, Jackson, and the return of Jesse Bates will definitely affect that, but it's just something to look at
Sure.
in the coming weeks with what's I mean, it's just gonna suck that we're gonna have Trayvon Henderson have another good preseason and he's gonna make it on the practice squad again, but sucks for him, but yeah, I think I don't there's obviously a lot of ways. The final 8 to 9 spots that you could say is open to anyone, but it could go any way, but yeah, I don't know what'll happen. I think Michael Thomas will make it, but yeah, it's just what does Darren Simmons think, and does Zach Taylor also want him?
Absolutely, 100%. I think one negative player I can also point out to me, uh, easily Deontay Smith. Deontay Smith to me was just piss poor in performance, and honestly, I really do hope, I really do hope that Frank Pollock laid into him, and I really hope he got through his head with something at least because these holding calls, these penalties. How many did he have again in the first quarter alone?
3.
3, and what was that in the span of, like, 5, 7 minutes?
So yeah,
Yeah, and I don't think he played for the rest of the game either, correct?
played the rest of the first half. I heard he did pretty good, and then he didn't return in the second half.
I see, I see. Well, again, whatever Frank Pollock, is doing right now, I hope he's still giving an earful to Deontay Smith about that because discipline is key. It's what helped us get so far in the first place last season. We were the least penalized team in the league, and we should aim to be that every year. I mean, it's crucial. Penalties are crucial in this league. If you can have solid, well disciplined, and you're not going to be doing crazy stunts like that every game, you're going to help your team win these games. So again, Deontay Smith, I think, just had a poor performance all based off that. But again, he's young. We'll see if he can improve. And I just hope Frank Pollock tells him something.
I just think Deontay Smith. You gotta also remember the guy just came off a back injury from a week ago. Yeah, he just came back a few days ago, so obviously he probably was playing off it, and the Bengals kind of like forcing him to play because they had no offensive tackle depth. They lost everyone because everyone's getting injured on the line. I mean, Lamont Gaylord, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He got injured this week. Jackson Carmen's out, and probably like 3 other people I can't think of right now. But it's obvious that I think it was quite obvious that he was playing injured, and obviously they were playing the first team. That's no excuse, but I think give him a bit of slack. But obviously there is room to improve for Deontay Smith from that game.
For sure. I mean, there's just so many injuries going around right now. But again, I mean, the roster's still evolving, but the offensive line is definitely a question right now. The whole offensive line, depth wise. Which I'm curious, what do you think about the offensive line depths with the team right now and just where they're at as a whole?
I think this was probably the best game to see from the offensive line in a long time. We had second string and third string offensive linemen face people like Kayvon Thibodeau, Leonard Williams, Aziz, Ali Jura, and Dexter Lawrence. Those are high-profile, well-known NFL players, some Pro Bowlers, some heck, even maybe a like third-team All-Pro if they have if like they have the potential to do that. But I mean, besides Smith, I think everyone played well. I mean, Cordell Volson, as we said, he had a fantastic game besides a few plays, which you're gonna expect that from a rookie left guard. Trey Hill, we didn't hear from him much, and that's a good thing. He didn't have no penalties. He didn't have any sacks allowed. He didn't do anything bad. So
Well, he
great game
did
from.
he did sort of on the first sack of the game, which was on Brandon Allen. Uh, Volson was responsible for the sack. He had a miscommunication and was trying to block a guy that Trey Hill was supposed to block. However, while that guy was getting through, Trey Hill himself was getting beat pretty bad on that. I saw a few reps where Hill kind of just let guys go by him, and luckily enough, they didn't end up in sacks. But uh, he definitely had some errors to me tonight. However, yes, he's shown big improvement, and that in itself is really good for the team in general. I mean, from last year, I remember when he got that one start and just it was just penalties like over and over and just
Yep.
horrible play. He was just really bad starting in the league. So, I mean, maybe he got some confidence this year, this offseason, and maybe he'll keep improving. I mean, it was a good sign to see from him, and I'm glad he's improving.
Yeah, but as to what I was saying, Hakeem Adeniji, he didn't even look bad at all. He had like I didn't see him do anything bad that entire game. He had some pretty good run blocks for Jacquez Patrick for that rush touchdown, so that was good to see. And a person that I think has one of the only people besides Cordell Volson that has had great games in the past in the only two preseason games is Devin Cochran. Uh, he was really good in pass blocking and a really like high motor offensive lineman last week, and he showed it again this week because he had a few good run blocks and he didn't allow any pressures, I believe. So I mean, I think Devin Cochran could be a dark horse candidate to be in a roster spot and be like an Isaiah Prince role, really. Like that's what I'm thinking of him, like as Isaiah Prince with same preseason types. People didn't think they'd make the roster, and then they just made it because of how good they were, and the coaches liked them.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, for me personally, I haven't really paid too much attention to Devin Cochran. That's something that I need to do for sure. But I can't really do too many comments on that as a result. But at this point, I think a lot of roster spots are up for grabs. So, in my opinion, every lineman in the depth chart right now is a dark horse to make the roster. Almost every single one. But I feel like that's something you could speak on. Maybe. What do you think of that?
The roster spots or the linemen?
The roster spots, just in general.
Yeah,
Like,
I think there are 8 roster spots that could be given to players that may or may not like on the bubble of making the practice squad of making the roster. And I think today Clay Johnson got one of them. I think Alan George probably got one of them. I think Michael Thomas got one of them. And I think one of Kwame Lassiter or Kendrick Pryor got one of them. So technically, 4 of them are already probably taken. So there's 4, maybe 5 spots left, and obviously 2 people will be going to the practice squad and be called up every week, mainly for a special teams role. But obviously, there's a lot to look at. I mean, do you do you keep 4 tight ends on the roster because Wilcox and Sample are still recovering, and do you want to put Moss on the roster as well, even though he's kind of been struggling, not really getting the catches that you'd expect from someone playing a majority of the game, or do you just hope one of Wilcox or Sample is ready for week 1? You just call someone up from the practice squad. That's a question, and Does Cam Taylor-Britt stay healthy? Will he be good for week 1? And if not, do you put him on the IR and then somebody cornerback like Allen George, or do you just keep Allen George on the roster and then put him? And then in that case, who do you cut? There's a lot of X's and O's to cross off. It's like a chess game, really, in this with injuries. Do you keep this guy because of an injury? And if not, then when do you hope this guy returns? Because we got a lot of people that on this week-to-week status, Drew Sample, Mitchell Wilcox, and Cam Taylor-Britt are a few examples of the guys that could return soon, but you don't know, so you just have to take a gut feeling on what to do and who to cut if you feel like you have to keep someone else on the roster with that guy.
I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt, he had what is he getting? He's getting surgery on his solar
He had
plexus? He
he
had
had
core surgery, right?
yeah, 3
Yeah,
to 12 weeks if so.
yeah,
He
that sounds a
could it's
lot
like
that sounds a lot similar to Osai last season with the wrists and just, we expected him to be ready more like somewhere maybe mid-season potentially, and he was out for the rest of the year, and I'm hoping that's not the case with Cam Taylor-Britt because,
I
again,
think
core surgery is really random. He could be ready by early week like, before week 4 of the regular season, he could be ready to go by then, or it could be that he won't see him play for the rest of the year or be ready to play for the rest of the year, It's just there's so many uncertainties around Cam Taylor-Britt, and overall, it's just really hard to say what it's gonna be. So, yeah, you're gonna wanna keep Allen George, Jalen Davis, guys like that, and maybe Delonte Hood in the back of your pocket just in case you need it. And again, even in the game, saying it was with Thaddeus Moss, I mean, Thaddeus Moss, I think, should be kept in the back pocket for the team. Because again, you never know with these guys, and Wilcox is dealing with injury. Um, and yeah, I mean, even though I'm not really rooting for Moss anymore due to what happened, I understand the block was legal, but still, the block in itself it shouldn't exist in the league anymore. It's dangerous, and that's and a lot of people say I've seen some people say real quick that it's Kayvon's fault, but I mean, if you watch him, he's just trying to see and wait if it's play action. I mean, again,
Mhm.
you don't want to bite on the run, you don't want to fall for the fake run, no, and I mean, overall, that's not to blame it on him for that. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Now he's okay. Thank goodness he's okay. I'm glad Kayvon's okay. His injury isn't really serious, and he's going to be okay. But Thaddeus Moss, I'm not really rooting for him right now. But he's still shown very good tendencies in the pass catching game. As he hasn't been thrown to as frequently as you may have hoped heading into this year, but he's still a good catching option. So again, keep Moss in the back pocket, for sure. I mean, and you never know if he's gonna like change or elevate his game to a point where he surprises people when he ends up on the roster, and he might make some plays
Yeah.
that steals him a spot. So again, you never know what's gonna happen. So always keep a backup plan for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of answers you've been giving tonight with specifically with some starters. I think we have a clear eye on who the starting left guard will be when
Absolutely.
I probably an idea. We don't know how the Bengals work really. The punter job. I think we got more questions and answers in that one, but because Drew Chrisman, he was probably the most underrated player. He had 3 punts inside the 20. So yeah,
Yeah, Drew Chrisman was looking good on the punts tonight. He really was.
that's something else to look at. And I mean that's really all it is for starters. But I think answers we got Jackson Hill. He's the guy. He's gonna be another great first round draft pick, and he showed it tonight. We got
Absolutely.
we got answers at like wide receiver that it's going to be obvious Stanley Morgan's going to make the roster. Mike Thomas is going to make the roster because he didn't play much, so that shows 4-5, and everyone else is just competing for that last spot. And I think, yeah, I think we got a lot of answers for running back too. Some IJP Ryan did in play, so that showed that it's probably going to be same old stuff from last year with P Ryan getting a majority of those second string running back snaps. So
I don't think so. I think from what we've seen so far, I think we're really letting Chris Evans show his game right now, and by each game, you man, it's just Chris Evans keeps securing that running back 2 role more and more and more and more, you know? I mean, kick returning, of course, is gonna be secure with that, but, I mean, overall, man, you just keep seeing more from Chris Evans, you see more ability from him, you see better run blocking as well, too. And I think just with each game passes, I think Zach Taylor is gonna look down on this, and he's really gonna see how much better Chris Evans can be, how much more viable he will make the team come, week 1. So, I think it's out of the question that Samaj P. is moving down to running back 3 or lower. I mean, possibly even released.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that'll happen. It's just a possibility, but I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of options you get with Chris Evans at the running back position that you just can't get with Pirine.
yeah, for sure, anything could happen. But yeah, as I was saying with the answers that we've been given, you said another one, kick returner. I think got a clear cut answer with that one with Chris Evans getting another huge return. Punt return, I think a really good chance it'll be Trent Taylor's job, and if not, Chris Evans' job will also be in the punt returner job. So I think we got a lot of answers on these battles just from the second preseason game, and I think that's a really good thing to look at since third game next week. We got joint practices with the Rams.
I'm
That'll
looking
mainly
forward to
be a
this.
that'll mainly be a preseason game for the starters. I think it'll show a lot of maturity and growth for the team and how they act with the Rams. Will they pull a Patriots Panthers joint practice and fight a lot? Or will this be a new kind of Bengals that we've been hearing about, the new culture that, yeah, if you hurt the QB, we'll hurt you, but we're not going to be the people that throw the first punch. So I I mean I hope they don't cause fights because I feel like the Bengals are way more well disciplined than they've been in the past few years and what they've been given the image as. But I think if there's going to be a lot of things to look at in the joint practices for the Rams, going to be like a preseason game for the starters, really, and then Saturday we got the preseason game, and there'll be a lot of questions for those 5, 6 roster spots left. Who gets them? A lot of answers for the 17. Yeah, I believe it's 17 practice squad spots, and who gets those? And yeah, I think there's just a lot to look for this week. A lot of exciting things.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if a fight breaks out, I don't think the Bengals will start it. I don't think the Bengals are that kind of team. They aren't really ones to lash out at people and just start fights for no reason. We don't really have any of that going on. There's a lot of respect to the teams, and there's just stuff that you're not usually supposed to say about other teams that like we've built in our new culture, you know. And part of building that new culture, where I think some of it's based around the respect for your opponents, you know. And I don't think they feel any hatred towards the Rams for winning the Super Bowl or what happened to Joe Burrow. They were just playing in their eyes. I feel like that's really how they look at it. I think what's really going to be determining of if a fight breaks out is how Lael Collins, Alex Kappa, and Ted Karras, the new lineman with us, react to the Rams and how they play and what might happen during the practices, because you never know. I mean, what if Aaron Donald pushes Burrow or whatever after he throws the ball or something? You know, I mean, how is Collins going to look at that? Is he going to have an issue with that? Is he going to start walking up to him or something? I mean, again, you know, I said I don't think the Bengals would be the ones to start the fight, But I think the Rams, with their physicality up front, that might be something that maybe is a trigger, if that makes sense. So to me, it's all about how Kappa, Karras, and Collins are going to react to what may happen during the practice.
Yeah, I think that's great observation with the physicality of the Rams. A lot of heated blood over the fact that this was a Super Bowl matchup. I think there was a fight that even broke out during the Super Bowl from Isaiah Prince. So obviously some heated stuff, some beef with some players, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look at with competition, a lot of stuff to look at with how the players look, how Burrow looks after just returning to practice, and how the line looks. So yeah, a lot of stuff to keep an eye on close, but I think that's all we have for today. You have anything else, Vince?
Nope, I think we're good to wrap it up, Nick.
All right. Yep. Thanks for listening to the 513
Actually, shit.
podcast.
Wait. Do you want me to call you Nick real quick? I can edit this out and stuff. Don't worry. Is it okay if I call you Nick, or do you want me to call
Yeah.
you?
You can. You can. Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay. Where were we? Where can we cut off at?
Yeah, let me just redo it.
Yeah. You know what?
Okay.
Redo it. It'll be easier.
Okay. Thanks for listening to the 513 podcast with me, Bengal Storm, and Vince. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff. Personal accounts will be linked in the description. 513 podcast on Twitter and TikTok. And have a good